Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I wanted to show you this twister card. This is one of the new Art Impressions twisters, and this is a Santa twister. And we're going to make a slimline card today. So let's go ahead and get started. This is the new Santa twister set, and you get the stamps and the dies, and you get some really cute sentiments here as well. So you have the front and the back of the Santa. And for paper, we're using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock and the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. To do our coloring today, we're going to be using black soot, spun sugar, hickory smoke, tattered rose, and fired brick. And these are the Tim Holtz Distress markers. And we're using the Tim Holtz Detailer Tip waterbrush to do our coloring. So I'm going to start off with that fired brick. And these are a water-based marker. It is a dual tip marker, so you have kind of a brush tip on one side and a little bit of a detail tip on the other. So I'm going to start with my colors. I'm not going to use two colors on these. I'm just going to use the one, and I'm just going to blend in. So I'll just be using that one shade. And what I love about the distress markers is they go with all the other Tim Holtz distress products that you have. All of your inks, your sprays, everything coordinates together. So if you're trying to match things up with your background, you can go ahead and do that as well. Now when you're using the water brush, you do want to make sure you have the right amount of water on that brush. So I usually test that on my scrap paper first, and then just blot it off on a paper towel if you have too much water. So it's really easy to blend with this, and I do prefer the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock to do my blending. I feel that it keeps the ink up on top of the paper a little bit longer, so I have a little bit more time to play around and move it around. But you try different papers and see what you think. It's kind of fun to see what the different types of papers do. But again, I do find the Strathmore Bristol Smooth to be very forgiving. And again, I'm just going to continue adding some shadows here. And there you see, I'll just take a little piece of a paper towel and blot up any excess. It's also a good way to get a little highlight as well. So you can color something in and then blot it with your paper towel, and that will give you a little bit of a highlight. And also use it to just pick up any excess color that you might have. Now I'm going to the gray, and I'm going to do some of the trim work on his little jacket here, just at the very top of the fur here, and then pull that down. And I'm kind of using a circular motion just to give it the look of a little bit like fur. And this is the hickory smoke that I'm using to do this. And there you can see I had a little too much ink, so I just grabbed it off the cardstock and scribbled it onto my scrap paper. I'm going back to that fired brick, and I'm going to use that here on his little mittens as well. I don't know why, but when I'm coloring in the little Santas, I tend to go back to my distress markers a lot because I feel like the colors are a little bit more vintage looking. It gives him a little bit more of an antique-y kind of a look. So that's what I was going for here. So again, you can go back in and just play around with your blending a little bit and remove any color if you need to. And then for the cheeks, I'm going to that spun sugar, and I'm adding a few dots on the cheeks there. And for the boots, I'm using the black soot. And I'm going to keep it the darkest right up underneath his pant leg. And again, I'm just using the one color and blending that out so that I can get a couple different shades here. And I'll do that same thing for the other side here. I'm also using the black soot to do the belt. And I'm just going to pull into the center. I'm putting a little bit on each side there and then pulling in. And again, just adding more ink if I want to get a little bit more of a shadow there. I'm going back to the fired brick here to do the little cap. And again, just adding a little bit more depth here. And then I did use a paper towel just to blot off a little bit there to create a little bit more of a highlight. I used a little bit of the spun sugar on his lips, and then I'm coming in with the tattered rose for his skin color. And going back to the spun sugar to add a little more pink to the cheeks there. And then I'm going back to the hickory smoke to add some shadows in his beard and mustache. I'm adding a little bit of a shadow here in the eyebrows. And then a little shadow along the bottom of the fur on the cap as well. So I colored in that other one the exact same way. So the back side I colored in the same way as I did the front side. I didn't want to bore you with showing you all that coloring, but basically it's the same technique. And there we have everything colored in. So now I'm going to grab the coordinating dies. I'm going to tape those down with a little bit of purple tape, and I'm going to run those through the die cutting machine. Now we have the front and the back, so I can go right ahead and glue these together. I'm using my Gina K Connect glue to attach these together. And you just want to make sure you line these up really well. And then I'm going to let those dry. And I'll give you a closer look at that. I just think this is adorable. So now with my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen, this is the glitter gloss pen. I'm going to add a little bit of glitter to all the furry areas on his little outfit. And I'm going to do the same thing for the back as well. So I'll try to give you a closer look at that, but it is really hard to see. But maybe you can see there's a little bit of shimmer there. So we're going to create a slimline card. So I'm cutting my cardstock at 7 inches by 8.5 inches, and I'm scoring it at 3.5 inches. So the final card will measure 3.5 by 8.5. Now I've got 3 little panels here that measure 3.5 inches across, and then this one is 4 inches, this one is 3 inches, and this one is 2 inches. And a little later on, I did do one more at about a 1/2 inch. So these are going to be for our little snowbanks. So when you're tearing the paper, you want to tear backwards and forwards. So tear away from you and then towards you. And that'll give you that nice ruffly edge that will really look like little snowbanks. So now that we have those all set, I'm going to see about where my sky needs to begin. So I'm just kind of checking things here, and I'm going to mark that with a pencil just about where I want the sky to end or begin there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this little star from my Animal Nativity set, which was a brand new release this year as well, and my Gina K Masking Magic. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut that little star from the Masking Magic. And I'm running that through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. So this will create a little mask for the card. So I remove the backing from the Masking Magic there, and I'm going to place this. I'm just trying to see exactly where my snowbanks are going to be, and I'm placing this in the upper left-hand corner of my card. I'm pressing that masking magic down really well because we're going to be inking right over top of it and I don't want it to come loose. So I'm using this Squeezed Lemonade Distress Oxide ink and my Picket Fence Studio Life-Changing brush to do the blending. So I'm going to start off with that Squeezed Lemonade and I'm going to apply that right over the top of that star, kind of in the left-hand corner of the card here. For my second color, I'm using Stormy Sky, and I'm going to go around this, and I did decide to add a little piece of scrap paper in here so that I didn't get any color on my card. Because we are working directly on the card, I want to keep the rest of the card nice and clean. So I'm going to add a little bit of that Stormy Sky up along the top edge there, and then I'm going to do kind of a half circle here going around the edges of this Squeezed Lemonade. And I'm just kind of applying a light coat here at first, and we'll continue blending this out. I did want to create a bit of a night sky, so we're going to go to the next darker color, which is the Chip Sapphire. And this is a beautiful color. This is a great color for a night sky. This is going to give a little bit more of a darkened sky here. And then after this, we're going to come in with a little bit of the black soot, and that's really going to darken things up. So now I'll grab the black soot and I'm going to apply that kind of along the tops of the snowbanks and then just kind of around the side just a little bit, just to create more of a shadow here at the bottom. I'm just checking that just to make sure I have enough of a shadow down there. And then I'm going to go back to the Squeezed Lemonade and do a little bit more blending. And then I'll go back to the Stormy Sky and blend that whole thing out a little bit more. So once we have that the way we want it, I wanted to remove the mask, and you'll see that we have this pretty little star here. But I'm going to go over it just a little bit with the Squeezed Lemonade just to soften that up, just a hair. So now, again, I'm going to put my scrap paper in there, and we're going to be doing some spattering. So I'm going to grab my white gesso. I'm going to place a little bit of the gesso on my glass medium mat. I've spritzed it with a little bit of water from my Distress sprayer, and I'm going to go ahead and spatter this panel. And that's going to give us the beautiful look of snow. And it also adds a little bit of texture as well. So I've done that whole panel. Now these images are a little bit of a sneak peek to something that's going to be released shortly, but I won't show you all of it. I'm just going to use the candy cane and the little cardinal from the set. And this new release will have the coordinating dies as well, so stay on the lookout for that. Now I did start with the fired brick to color these in, and now I'm using that hickory smoke again just to add a little shadow where the white areas of the candy cane are. Now I've grabbed the carved pumpkin. I'm going to just do the beak on my little cardinal, and then I'm going back to the fired brick and I'm coloring in the rest of the cardinal. Again, just using the one color and just blending it out. And I did have a little too much water on the brush there, so I'm just blotting it off on the paper towel just to remove a little bit of that excess water, and then I'm going to blot the image as well. So I'm going to tape these down with a little bit of purple tape and run these through my die cutting machine. And there we have everything die cut. So now for these little snowbanks, and I did add that other one that I mentioned earlier, which was about a 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. So I've got these 4 little snowbanks, and I wanted to add a little sparkle to these. So I'm using my sheer shimmer spritz. This is the frost color, and I will list all of these products below for you. And I'm going to give this a nice spritz. You do want to shake it really well and then just spray, and it'll give it a beautiful frosty, shimmery look to our snowbanks. So going back to that little star, I want to die cut 2 of these. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the squeezed lemonade to a piece of scrap 100-pound cardstock. And then I'm going to die cut this twice. And I'm going to have the little Santa holding this star. So I ran that through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. Now I'm going to grab the smallest rectangle from the double stitched rectangle dies, and I'm just going to place that just over that sentiment that says ho ho ho, and I just want part of that. So I'm going to go ahead and tape that down with a little bit of purple tape and run that through my die cutting machine. Now I want a panel that's 3 1/4 by 5 1/2. This will be the sky that you'll be able to see through to the inside of the card. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here, only I'm not going to add the star. I just want to recreate those colors on this panel. So I'm just kind of using that front panel as my guide, and there you can see I've completed the whole thing. And I did go ahead and spatter that as well. So now I want to add the little twist frame. This is the twist frame die set. And you do need this for all of the twisters. So this is essential to creating any of the twisters in the line. So I'm going to just figure out exactly where I want this to be. And I did want it to be right near that snowbank. I want him to kind of look like he's standing on top of that snowbank there. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this down. I want to open up my card, and then I'm going to run that through my regular Spellbinders Platinum machine. You do need a little bit bigger machine to run this through. So now I'm going to remove that die, and you'll see that creates that little notched opening. There's a notch at the top and the bottom. I'm going to set that other piece aside because we created a little sky for the inside of our card there. And you'll see that it's going to line up, and I'm just going to slide it around in here until I get it to line up with that front background so that the colors line up well. Then I'm going to go ahead and attach this to the inside of my card. I'm marking that with a pencil so I know where to put that back into place, and I'm using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to attach this. And that'll just give me a little time to slide it around if I need to. Now you could have created an entire panel for the inside, but I didn't want to do that. I want to leave room at the bottom where you could put a sentiment or sign your card. So that's up to you. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down all of these little snowbanks. And I'm just using some clean scrap paper just to press those in place. And I do want to leave a little area at the top where I can tuck those little candy canes in. So I'm not putting glue all the way to the top. I'm not adding any dimension here because I feel like we have enough interest with the little twister card, and we have so many snowbanks. So I'm just going to glue these all down flat. Now again, I left a little room to tuck in my little candy canes, and we have 3 of those. I'm going to put glue on the bottom of these, and then on each of these I'm going to put a little bit of foam mounting tape up at the top. So they'll have a little bit of dimension at the top. And I'm going to do that same thing for all 3 of these. Now I'm going to pop up the little cardinal as well. Now for the sentiment, I'm also going to pop that up, and I'm going to place that up along the top edge of the card. So now for the fun part, we can put our little Santa in, and you just want to connect it in those two little notches that we created with the frame. That's going to create our little twister. And then I did want to add the little star to his hand. So I'm going to glue these two stars together. And it kind of looks like he, grabbed the star out of the sky. That's kind of the look that I was going for here. So I'm going to let that dry. And then I'm just going to attach that to the front here on his hand. And then I'm going to take that Nouveau shimmer pen, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glitter to that star as well. Just for a little bit more sparkle. And now let me give you a closer look at the card. You can see this cute little Santa and our candy canes. And then you can see the shimmer on the snow there as well, which I think adds a lot of interest to the snow. And there's our little twister. I just think that's so cute. And then you can sign in here down towards the bottom, or you could stamp another sentiment down at the bottom as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.